Awesome.
Good day, beautiful, beautiful family of Agape FM. It's been a while since I've spoken to you. You know, I've really missed actually speaking to my family from near and far, wide, all over the world, you know. Yes, I've really missed you. And this is myself, Nikki. If in case you've forgotten my voice, it's myself, Nikki, with the Midday Talk, you know, where we speak to entrepreneurs, business men, women, people that is about bringing change, you know, in our communities, in the world at large. And today we are joined by another extraordinary gentleman. You know, he wears many hats. You know, he has bucket loads of things that he has accomplished, you know, and things that he can share with us. So, you know, we're all about hearing people's stories, you know, hearing what we can take, you know, out of that bucket for ourselves. So today we are joined by Colin Fibiger. Am I saying it correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay, yes. We are joined by Colin Fibiger of Property Network and Eyeconic Photography. We are blessed to have you here with us today, sir.
Thank you very much. Blessed to be here.
Yes, yes. It's honestly amazing, you know, to have men that is all about bringing change, you know, not change just, you know, change for now, but change that can last,
Long term.
Long-term change. And as I was reading your bio and as we were just spoken, you are all about bringing that change. You know, you're all about trying to restore, you know, bring restoration, bring change from a biblical perspective.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, I'm just gonna go through your bio very quickly for our listeners and our viewers. Okay, so Colin Fibiger, a 59-year-old man, is married to Deirdre Fibiger, and together they have 2 children. Their son Jethro is studying medicine first year at NMU, and daughter Sarah is a final year pursuing a teaching degree at Unisa. Colin is a business owner of 2 businesses, namely Property Network, a real estate agency, for 10 years now, and Eyeconic Photography for 12 years now. He is also a leadership consultant. He assists in development of biblical governance policies for a local party as well as parties and organizations overseas. He has been self-employed for 20 odd years, but has past working experience which includes regional accountant, Federated, Bakeries, Eastern Cape Provincial accountant, Premier, Milling, Blue Ribbon Bakeries. He also was a City Councillor of the ACDP in Nelson Mandela Bay from 2000 up until 2005. His passions and interests are governance and politics from a biblical perspective. Wow, you know, that is totally amazing. I always say that we have inspirational people right here. You know, we don't have to look very far
That's true.
for that. Yeah.
In our communities,
Yes.
in our streets, we have them.
We do have, you know, so we just spoken, you know, and before we get to that part of you know, the biblical part, let's just go into, you know, it is about your businesses. So let's just go into that, you know. Tell me about, you know, it's real estate, and then it's photography, and then it's biblical. And that's why I'm saying, you know, you have a lot of heads, you have a lot of buckets, so you just need to unpack, you know, and just pour for us, you know. Yeah, let's just start with the real estate first.
Okay, that's my wife was in that first, and I used to assist her, and eventually joined her, and eventually we then opened our own business. So that's where the real estate comes from.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been 10 years. It's been an exciting 10 years. And it's about having that entrepreneurial spirit, I think. And you find we're a smallish brand in terms of names in the industry. But the reality is, if you look at the top 10 awards, for instance, of agents in the region, at least 50% at any time are independents, smaller names, not the big brands. And all of those agents are just, they're people like us. They just prefer to work for themselves, take their own risk, and of course the rewards are higher then as well.
Yeah, and then there's the photography as well.
Yeah, I think that the lesson I'd like to give anyone from that is we all have hobbies, we all have interests. If you are going to pursue a hobby, why not do it 100% and become very good at it and create a business opportunity out of it? And that really was with the photography. I was enjoying it. I thought, well, maybe I can make some money out of this. And I became as good as I could become. And so somebody does some sewing at home, or they like rearranging flowers at home, and don't just do it 10%, do it 100%. Become the best flower arranger in your neighborhood, and the next thing you're making money out of weddings. So and we all have these little passions and hobbies and things that we do. I mean, right now I'm busy. I've set up a little hydroponics setup in my backyard.
There's another one.
I want to become the most knowledgeable person on hydroponics, and hopefully actually end up making some money out of that. So the next time you have me here, there's going to be something else.
Something else in the bucket.
Yeah, so that's just the message to anybody. It's just take what you have and do it with passion. We're told to do everything unto the Lord.
Yes,
now, that means 110%. So you can't just take photos. You must take them better than anyone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can see that you do take those pictures are amazing. I've actually saw you took a picture of a car, BMW, and you won.
Yes. Won an award with that one. Yes.
Yeah, because that is like amazing. It's something that you can find in a magazine, on TV.
Yeah, well, it ended up in the magazine. And I think maybe that picture tells the story. I actually did an engagement shoot down at Schoenmakers. And when we got back to the top, the fiancé said to me, he had just bought this BMW and he loved it. And he said to me, why don't you just take a couple of photos of my car for me?
Wow.
Rather than just take a couple of photos, I waited just a little bit longer till the sunset was deeper. I had a little smoke pellet I put underneath the car. And so even though I was just taking a photo for him of his car, I did it to the best of my ability at the time.
Yeah. What a spirit of excellence.
Yeah.
That's where what you do it with the spirit of excellence.
I don't know how his fiancé felt about that one being the favorite photo of the shoot, though.
Oh no! What? Oh no! So okay, I think they probably had an argument. And okay, so what is this now? The car? Is it? Yeah. Am I the baby or what? Yeah. So tell me about these two businesses of yours. Are you still in the business, or
yes,
you're still very much
in
the business? Yeah. Tell us about some of the highlights, of these two businesses, of the real estate as well as the photography.
I think real estate's full of highlights. You're working with somebody's largest asset for most people. It's their only real large asset that they will ever own. And you're working with that. So there's a lot of trust involved. And to just see those dreams come true for people and handle this whole situation for them is sometimes extremely rewarding, particularly if there's a story behind the story. That people's lives are in a lot of turmoil sometimes. And if you're able to step in and really assist them in that time, it's a highlight every single time. And Yeah, so there's, in terms of the business, that's been nice, that's grown and it's done well, but the highlights are continuous in the business when you're helping people. And I say for a lot of people, it's their only large investment that they'll ever have, and to help them along that path. It's great. I think it's great.
It's all about seeing. I think the biggest highlight for you, your heart, when you see or you are a part of that, large,
It's, and especially, I mean, our poorer communities, their knowledge is poor. It really, really is. So, and they get abused sometimes. So to be able to step in and help an 80-year-old lady whose husband has died and she needs to sell her property and she's in panic. And she's lived there the whole life with her husband, and suddenly she's alone and she doesn't know what to do, and the family's not local. I think, it's a great feeling to be able to help someone through that process. We get clients constantly phone us that we haven't heard from in 5 years. Or spoken to, and they'll phone us up and say, hey, listen, we're selling now. Because of the treatment you gave them then.
The customer care, the customer service. It's not only about filling your pockets, but it's thinking about, it's about the client. That is truly inspirational right there, I feel like just standing up, round of applause, standing ovation.
I think I'll be honest, I think PE, we are lucky. I could mention quite a few names, but we have a lot of agents in the city who are of the same heart, obviously there are those out there that it's about the money only, but we do have some great agents in the city.
Definitely. And with that, with the highlights, also comes the challenges as well.
Yes. Well, isn't that always the case?
Yes, definitely. You have your ups and your downs, but that is what ultimately makes you grow, makes you strong.
It does, And every time you learn, because nobody knows everything. And so you encounter a situation where there's a problem, and in helping them, you learn. So you grow. Next time it becomes easier to help the next person. And it's this ongoing learning process.
I was about to ask you now, what makes you unique? That question always pops up in interviews, but you already said it all. It's all about the heart, the passion. It's not about you. First things first, the client or the customer is the main, it's about the client, because without the client or the customer,
it's a short-term business. And I think that's where a lot of agents they approach it in the short term. They want to make money now, and that's great, but that means you've got to keep looking for clients, as opposed to just every time you're building a client that's going to call you back, come back to you, and then long term you're no longer running around for clients. They're coming to you.
It's word of mouth. It's word of mouth. You just said that the client came back after 5 years. You're like, who is this now? I forgot about you.
Well, sometimes it is quite embarrassing because you don't remember the name.
You're like, you remember.
Well, exactly.
Remember.
Hey, Colin, how you doing? It's been just nod until there's a bit of recognition.
No, but that is amazing. That speaks of, the type of businessman that you are, So
and it's the way we started out. It's the way we wanted to be. We'd come out of, both my wife and I were at a big brand in the city, and she was the #1 agent for Eastern Cape and Southern Cape when we left there. So we always joke, anybody else that wins the #1 now, it's actually #2 because the #1 has left. But when we left, we knew what we didn't want to do more than we knew what we wanted to do. We'd just seen things and we said, okay, we definitely don't want to do that. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. So there was a lot more vision around what we don't want to do than there was around what we do want to do. What we do want to do came over time. But we started off with saying we don't want to become money only. We don't want to be just uncaring,
selfish.
That kind of thing.
I think that is definitely, when you are in an environment and you pick up all the negatives, all the things that doesn't work, or you feel a certain way about this thing, and you're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's not me. If I have my own business, I don't want to do this,
Yeah.
So and that is what eventually makes you one of the best, it makes you prosper, because that's the heart that you have.
And you sleep at night better?
Yeah.
I might not sleep in as big a house as some others, but I sleep at night.
Yes,
and I mean, during bad times, we've been an agency now through COVID. We've been through the recession that we had, 2007, that period. And I'm just thinking now, while you're talking, of the one example where friends of ours phoned to say, look, please, we need to sell. We can't afford to keep the house anymore.
Sure.
And we managed to counsel them into blocking off a section of the house, renting it out, until the good times came back again, in which case they'll keep their property. And to this day, they still have their property.
Wow.
We didn't make a cent out of them.
Sure.
But that's the kind of approach I think you've got to have.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, when they come to you, they're desperate. They're under pressure to sell. It's economic, they're getting divorced, or there's some issue like that. So even on our website, there's 2 pastors' numbers that clients can phone if they're considering divorce and selling. We advise them to first phone for counselling. So, yeah.
Sure, that is totally amazing, because yet again it shows of character, it shows of integrity, it shows of, I'm not selfish, I'm not a selfish person. I am here first of all, let me help you. I'm going to see if I can help you out of this. Yeah, ne?
But, I'll say this, the right thing is selfish. Because divorce, if it escalates too much, breaks down society. A broken down society's economy is weak. A weak economy doesn't have a lot of properties to sell.
Yeah.
So, people think it's really, doing the right thing is good business sense.
Sure.
It really is. People just don't realize it. But if they want to have a long-term sustainable business, do the right thing. And eventually it pays off.
Yeah, don't just think for the now. Think of the repercussions of what the effects of what. Yeah, ne? I just feel like we need to bring a pool, but yeah. Let's just go into this, the leadership consultant, because I feel we are there right now. Tell us about you assist in the development of biblical governance policies.
Yes, it's an area that's not had a lot of work done in it. In South Africa, we've been very blessed to have Africa Christian Action, based in Cape Town. They've done a lot of work on developing biblical worldview seminars. So anyone in South Africa is listening, they come to you, they'll run it for you. They have a whole seminar on how to approach the world biblically, all the different facets of it. And then the extension of that, of course, is if you want to get into government, you have to have that worldview. And we were talking earlier saying, if you're going to talk economics, you have to talk biblical economics if you want to represent yourself as a Christian or biblical party. You can't go and have a secular form of economics under that banner. It just doesn't work. And for instance, I'm trying to think, just the way our banks work, with the fractional reserve banking, is completely unbiblical. It's highly inflationary, and the Bible actually speaks against it. So what would you do if you were a Christian government? How are you going to change the banks? It's one of the first things that's got to change in order to change the economy. And so this awareness has been coming much more over the last decade across the world. And it's just different organizations, political parties that are beginning to explore this thing of what exactly is biblical governance. And I use biblical governance because it's not the same as Christian governance.
Okay.
Christian governments is Christians applying whatever policy they will. Biblical governance is something doesn't matter who's in power, but they're applying biblical principles. So there's two very different things. You would have better government with a Hindu applying biblical principles than you will have as a Christian applying secular principles. So our goals should be biblical governance, not Christian government. And up until now, I think that's been the flaw. We've been telling people, listen, vote because we need to get Christians into power. But statistically, I think we were 76% Christian in this country last year, which means 76% of the people in government at the moment are supposedly Christian, and we all know how that's working out.
Evidently.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time researching, reading, and as you mix with other people, then you find out. So you start working in these circles within circles, and I use the word consult for lack of a better word.
Yes.
But it's really assisting with the development of those policies.
And you can see that you say that you have locally.
Yes.
As well as overseas.
Yes.
So can you just tell us about these overseas organizations?
Okay, I'm not going to mention any of the parties because some of them are actually, I almost want to say, doing it behind the scenes in their approach. So leadership has come about over the years and it's taken on a more Christian ethos, and they've become interested in this, and they want to develop policy along these lines. But they're not in-your-face Christian party. So I don't want to mention any names there. But there's been a lack of study in this regard. In fact, the number of books around biblical policy dried up for around 50 years. There's nothing. Writers like North and so on. This is all old stuff. So you've really got to go back to the old writings, research that, break that down. And you had Kuiper from Holland, guys like this. They all started bringing about this form of biblical governments and writing about it. But there's this big gap in between what was written then, what was applied then, and maybe what we need to apply now. I use the example always of the health laws of the Bible, for instance, where you're not supposed to eat pork. Now, too many people take it in a spiritual sense, as opposed to, if I say to you, don't eat pork, it's dirty. You're just going to take it at that. Or when you tell your child that picks a sweet up off the pavement, don't eat that, it's dirty.
Yes.
And the child says, what, am I going to go to hell? And you say, this has got nothing to do with hell. This is about your stomach we're talking here. And so we've super spiritualized basic principles that God passed down to us. And one of them, eating pork, we know pork is dirty. Pork, like humans, is one of the few animals where poison is stored in the flesh, not in the glands. So you can go and they've done tests where they've burnt a pig down to cinder, and the poison is still there.
Sure.
So this is why they got told not to eat it, but it was around health. They didn't cook food the way we did now. So all this unclean, if you look at the clean and unclean animals, there's scientific, biological reasons why you shouldn't eat those animals for the better of your health. But it was based then. So we cook differently now. We have different health protocols now. It's quite fine to go and eat some of those animals. Just don't overdo it because you will get sick. So a lot of this law is just taking people from super spiritualizing something and just saying, listen, here's guidance on how to live, how to govern regarding and justice and economics, and those are incredibly fascinating when you look at it from a biblical perspective.
Sure. It's almost sad, that we are, how can I almost say, ignorant, not ignorant, but we are not well educated about these things. We are just going about and accepting what is happening around us. We just spoke before the interview, and like what is happening, especially at churches, and how we do things. You mentioned about there being soup kitchens, but can we go to the root? Can we go to solve the problem, not just for that specific time, and then what happens afterwards. So we need to go to the root, and that is where the biblical principles comes in, because if we are governed, by the law, of that biblical, then that is where the change will come. But unfortunately, it's unfortunate that our people, our very own people, as a Christian community, we are not where we are supposed to be.
Well, I think it's preaching about justice on a Sunday morning makes for a very boring service. and so I think the predicament of pastors is they need to have that evangelism going. They need to, and the importance of it has just never been emphasized, of why we have to get taught these things. I mean, one pastor said to me once, it doesn't matter what political parties are, because ultimately God's in control. Okay, so, and it's a fake logic, it's unbiblical, okay? Because if you ask that same person who babysits their children when they go out, they make sure they've got the best person in charge. They don't just take, because if it doesn't matter and God's in control, why don't you just come pick a paedophile off up the street to look after your child?
Sure.
Right? It does matter who's in control. They will send their children to the best schools because they want the best person in control of their education. They take their car to the best mechanic because they want the best person in charge of their car. But as soon as it comes to the rest of the country, we turn our back and say, no, God's in control, which is very selfish. So when it comes to our personal lives, we make sure the right people are in control. When it comes to the country, we say it doesn't matter. Bible says even the heathens care for their own.
Sure.
We are supposed to be different. We're supposed to be caring for the rest of the nation. And that translates into caring who's in government, who's in control, who's in charge. You cannot walk away from that responsibility.
Sure. Yeah, let's go to you are the councillor, the city councillor of ACDP. Can you just tell us about how that was for you and your journey? I believe that was a journey, your 5-year journey as the councillor of the city.
Yes. Look, it was my first venture into active public politics. Even though I'd been activist before and involved, so to some degree involved, that was my first venture into it. And it was, I think I said to you, it's very exciting. We were the first democratically elected municipality in the country.
Wow.
So to be part of that history was just, it's something else.
Yes,
It really, really was. There was disillusionment, though, in terms of, and that I said to you as well earlier, my expectations of council were very naive. I really believed that this was the cream of the crop. These people had all come together, made themselves available to stand, and we were going to change the city. We were going to change the country, be part of that dream. As time went by, it just got more and more disillusioned, that there was no interest in real change.
Sure.
I never played the opposition role. I didn't want to be just another opposition party. So I tried to cooperate in governing, which worked very well because I got invited to ANC caucus, where they normally discuss things privately. And I tried to collaborate and mediate within council to make things work, and it really worked well. It really worked well. But our problem here locally, and I think probably across the country, is one of the mayoral committee members actually said to me the one day, he says, we desperately need help. We don't know what we're doing.
Sure.
But we can't say a word because the DA will run to the papers.
Sure.
So we had, to a large degree, an incompetent government, local government, and national as well, and an incompetent opposition that didn't want to govern. All they wanted to do was break down. And the country's paid the price for that. The ANC was just stuck there trying to do things on their own, messing up along the way. And of course, that's why we have the corruption we have today. Because incompetence leads to corruption. When the accountant doesn't know left from right, debit from credit, the guy in the stores is going to steal.
Sure.
And as they couldn't ask for help, they couldn't be open about their situation and say, listen, for the sake of the country, let's govern together, because all the DA could do was run to the newspapers. They never had anything positive to say in council, constantly negative. And we still see that today. That's still the style of the DA, is to be critical. They can't actually govern. I'm serious. And people often use the Western Cape as the example of good governance. That's rubbish. They've got the fastest deteriorating coastline in the country. That's under the DA. They inherited a very good province. That's what they did. But to say they've actually governed it well, the statistics will tell you otherwise.
Yeah, no? We can be here the whole day speaking about this, you know. But yeah, you know, we pray, and we just pray for wisdom. You know, we pray for wisdom for our country. We just pray for men and women to rise up, you know, not for anything, but just for change, for the people.
Yes.
You know? We can't say that we are for the people, but we don't see that we are for the people. So it was this.
And I want to be positive as much as there's all this negativity. I'm just seeing a rise in people wanting something else. They don't quite know what it is yet. I mean, and in South Africa we have, I'm going to use the political scenario to explain it. People are tired of the ANC, but they don't know where else to go, sort of thing. And that's where I think a lot of Christians are spiritually. They're tired of the status quo. They're frustrated with it. It's the same old, but they don't quite know where to go from there. But there's definitely a spiritual sort of something happening. There's definitely something happening. And I sense it talking to people across the world as well. You know, we've got this extreme left-wing stuff that's happening at the moment all over the world, plus here. And the right wing, and I use the right wing now very sort of broadly, but that would include everything to the right of the left extremists. That generally includes conservative Christians. They're beginning to stand up and say, sort of, enough is enough. We understand that things were wrong, but this stuff that you're trying to push upon us now is even worse. And they're going to be pushed into a corner where they have to find solutions. And in that corner, they're going to find biblical worldview. They've been forced there at the moment. So I'm excited about what possibilities lay ahead.
Definitely. Well, like I said, we can go on and on.
Yes.
You know, but we have come to the end. It's not the end. We pray that we can go further. This is not the only time that we can speak about these very important topics. But how can the listeners and the viewers get hold of you? I believe that your business, we spoke about the business, if they want to get in touch with you regarding the property, selling of properties, even photography, you're still doing that?
Yes.
Yeah. So can you just give us your contact details, social media platforms?
Yeah, they can find us on Facebook if they just look for Property Network, or for me, Colin Fibiger. I don't know, do you want a cell number or email?
You can give it.
On the cell, they can contact me, 082 413 5759.
Okay, and then as you have heard, listeners and viewers, you can go to the Facebook pages. It's Property Network and Eyeconic Photography, and you can just check out the amazing photography. You know, it's not your norm. You know, it's honestly, you can see the attention to detail. It's done with excellence. It is, you know, television and it's television and magazine quality. So yeah, you know, if you want to make use of the photography, if you want to make use of property, you know, yeah, selling of your property or even buying of property.
Yeah, we do rentals as well.
You can definitely check out the Facebook pages. And then we have come to, you know, the final, where we would like to ask you if you have a few words of encouragement for our listeners, our viewers out there, of anything that you would like to say to them.
Don't be scared of change. You know, change is inevitable, and if we wait for change, it's somebody else manages that change, and then we simply have to adapt. However, if we initiate the change, we're managing it, and it's a lot easier, a lot more comfortable, a lot more exciting. So don't be scared to be an entrepreneur. Just go out there, do it, and you can start small. And don't be scared to change the way you're thinking biblically. Don't be scared to challenge the status quo. There's a lot of God is so much bigger than our thoughts, and we need to allow Him that space.
Sure, definitely. Just one last thing about the leadership. You are a leadership consultant, so. Can the listeners or the viewers get hold of you to maybe come and speak?
By all means, yes, by all means.
Yes. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop your contact details on our Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
and then when if they want to get hold of you, they can just get your contact details from our Facebook page. Yes. That was definitely a very interesting conversation. This gentleman has a lot of wisdom, you know. Like I said, we have people right in our midst. We don't have to look far, you know, for wisdom. And if we just look in the right places, you know, we just pray that God connects us with the right people so that we can come out of the darkness into the light. Yes. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
And sharing that wisdom with us. Yeah. May God richly bless you, with your businesses, whatever venture, whatever thing that you take on, may it prosper.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I pray that God will use you in our country to bring about change, especially when it comes to biblical governance. Yes, listeners and viewers, that was Colin Fibiger of Property Network and Eyeconic Photography. He's also a leadership consultant that deals with biblical governance policies. So if you want to get hold of him, you can check out his Facebook pages, which is Property Network and Eyeconic Photography. And we will drop his contact details on our Facebook page so that you can just get hold of him if you want to make use of his services. So thank you very much for tuning in on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. We pray that you are blessed wherever you are, wherever you find yourself, whatever you are doing. Stay positive. God loves you. He really honestly loves you. Even if you don't feel like He loves you, just know that He is all about you. He truly cares about you. So stay blessed, stay tuned for amazing content, and you know that we do definitely play the best music right here on Agape FM, your best online and your favorite online radio. Stay tuned and stay blessed. Right now I'm going to play Torrin Wells, Nothing But You.